don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air, like a blazing flare. Don't stare, cause the flames will burn us. I thought you were the one for me. That's why I gave you everything. Held you close by the stormy seas. Oh, you meant the world to me. I used to kiss your head when you cried for me. Hold your hand while the pain was over. Keep you warm by the roaring sea. You meant the world to me.
Evening, folks. Tonight I'm going to start out playing a piece of an encounter story. But I won't explain what it is. We'll just get into it. I'll play it, and then we'll go from there. At the end, after this is finished playing, we're going to move to discussion in the town hall. So here we go. Let me turn this off first. Tonight's topic is about killer Bigfoots.
From us, not too far away from us, was this older lady, and she was so sweet. And I remember that she used to be outdoors every day, doing laundry by hand, and she'd hang out her laundry, and she'd be doing gardening, and she was just so nice to us. You know, she was so sweet.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 9 years old.
Okay. All right.
I was 9.
Okay. So go ahead.
I remember her front door because we went over there. She, a couple times because she made us cookies.
Right.
We were there for about a week before anything happened, and she told my mom, "Don't have the kids out here once it gets dark." And my mom was like, "Why?" And she goes, "Oh, there's just a lot of animals out here and stuff, and it's you just She goes,
Yeah.
"Just don't have them out here." And my mom, that probably set off flags for my mom, but she, I didn't say anything to us. But my mother kept an eye on us. My mother always carried a gun, and now I know why.
Yeah.
She literally, Brenton, slept with the gun under her pillow. Okay?
Right.
So one night I was sleeping, and by the way, the lady, her house, she had a really tall front door, okay? I remember her place, a real tall door, and then the top of her door was the stained glass, beautiful stained glass.
Okay.
Okay? I remember, because I thought it was so pretty, I used to love, to look at it. It was really pretty close. I loved going over there because she had these little dogs, and I loved playing with her little dogs. She had, I think they were 2 Pomeranians. Yeah, and I would play with them.
Right.
And so, I was, my mom put us to bed, and I remember being woke up with a hand over my mouth and being told to be quiet.
Okay.
And by the way, we had our German Shepherd with us. My dad got us a dog named Sheba. Sheba was a police dog, and she was too aggressive.
Okay.
This dog was really, really aggressive. I'll never forget my poor mom one Christmas. She wrapped up all our Christmas presents, and the dog. We came home, and all the presents were unwrapped. And my poor mom was crying because she had to wrap all the stuff, and we were like, "Hey, look at our presents!" They were all out everywhere. This dog was really aggressive. She attacked the paperboy. She would. You had to keep a big chain on her. She was big and she was aggressive.
Okay.
And she was in the house. Okay, so my mom had a hand over my mouth, and she said, "Don't say a word. Be quiet." I'm like, "What's going on?" She said, "Just be quiet." And it was all dark in the house. And she had us go into the room that my mom was sleeping in, right? And she had us all get down. And she was peeping out these blinds, okay? Because you could see across to the lady's house.
Okay.
When you looked out the blinds. Do you understand? You could see perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was this, my mom did not want me looking out, but being a kid and being curious, I peeked out the window, and what I saw, all I can describe is, to me as a kid, was thinking that it looked like a big Frankenstein, hairy Frankenstein.
Wow.
Do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I couldn't find, a box for it to fit into, your brain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll never forget, the dog was under my mom's bed. This badass dog peed on the carpet and was under the bed.
Wow.
Shaking.
Goodness.
And I looked at that, and there was this thing looking in, and it was as tall as a stained glass on the lady. It was looking through the glass.
Wow. So this lady had really tall.
And it looked like there was something else, with it next to it. Like now, I guess there was another one.
Okay.
But they were looking in. Looking in and, banging. You could, it was making a lot of noise, banging. And my mom, there was no phone at this place. It was out in the sticks, and my dad wasn't there. I hate to say this, but my dad was out drinking with his friends, and, he wasn't there. And my poor mom was there. And I know my mother always felt so much guilt for not being able to help this woman.
Wow. So
my mother made us get down in the, there was a little basement, you could lift up.
Right.
A cellar-like, do you understand? And my mom made us get down in there, and we had to stay in there until the daylight. My mom put us and the dog down in there, and we kept hearing these noises, and then we heard the lady screaming.
Wow.
And the next day,
Okay, take your time. Take your time, Tina.
the next day, the lady's door, the police were there, and the lady's door was, broken down, and she was gone.
Wow. So
There was blood all over the place, and the woman was gone.
So she was totally missing?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how old was this woman? Do you know?
She was probably about 75.
Okay. All right.
But she was in really good shape. Very,
Okay. Yeah.
Sharp as a whip,
Mhm.
Like I said, she'd be out every morning doing her, laundry, doing the gardening,
Right. Right.
playing with us kids. She was so sweet. And my mom didn't know what to do, and I remember her trying to tell my dad, and him telling my mom to shut up and not say anything. Nobody's going to believe them.
Right.
And my grandfather, believing my mother, he was Native American, and he was really upset because he knew this woman.
Right. Was there any? Was there any like what year was this? About what year? Around about.
This had around about 1980 probably.
Okay.
Around there.
All right. So there wasn't any good
80?
forensic and DNA stuff like that back then, was there?
No.
Okay.
And they put it as somebody broke into her house, and it was just left as a cold case.
Right. Well, to them it was. I mean, they would, they didn't know anything about a Bigfoot, When you all looked, you saw both of them at the door?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
They were looking in. And they were banging. They were making this noise. They started out like this. This is the best I can make. Okay, it went like a siren.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Now was one of them real big and the other one was smaller, or can you tell?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like one looked like, to the best of my knowledge, like a 9-foot, and the other one.
Hey, you got the dogs going with
and
your
the other
call.
one was like maybe 7 foot.
Okay. All right.
And oh my God! And we had the windows cracked, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let me explain this smell. I'll never forget it. Okay, in San Francisco, in Chinatown, right?
Right. Right.
During the summer, they lay out meat on Sundays, right? Pork meat and stuff. They bring in huge, big pigs, dead
Yeah.
pigs. It stinks, and the ground in San Francisco is really slick, and you can smell all these dead pigs.
Right.
It's really nasty. It's every Sunday in Chinatown.
Okay.
Okay, and it smelled like sweet, dead, rotted meat.
The Bigfoot did?
That
You're talking about the pigs that in San Francisco smelled that way?
yeah, and that's
Okay.
what it smelled like coming through our window.
Oh goodness! So you were smelling it and everything. Wow.
Oh my God, they smelled like, oh my.
So when
God.
they were making this sound, how many times did they do that?
Oh my God.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about that. Okay, that they're Nephilim and it's a fallen.
You don't either. I thought
I think they're Nephilim. Vocal abilities and
what Dave Pilates was saying that
to guard the way to the garden in Genesis.
Okay, folks, that's pretty much the entire bit of the encounter. Now, any of you out there who run across this video who think that Bigfoot are kind and gentle creatures and they would never hurt people, there you go. That's in your face aggression by Bigfoot. Not just one rogue. This was 2 Bigfoot. It looked like a male was probably teaching its offspring how to go grocery shopping. So, or it might have been a male and a female, but it kind of strikes me as a male teaching his son, this is how you go put food on the table, boy. You know. So, if y'all want to go ahead and, I mean, I'm going to follow the chat, obviously, but click on this link and go to the town hall voice chat, and you don't have to type, you can talk. So, damn it. Okay, everybody who, well, Matt, oh, there you are.
I don't see him. Is he still in here?
No, he exited the room. He's still online. He just exited the room, and I can't unmute him until he goes back in. So,
yeah.
I had to mute y'all because otherwise, when I tried to play the audio from that so that was in the room, everybody was going to hear you guys chatting about whatever you were chatting about too, and I didn't want that.
No, yeah, I figured that out, but we wouldn't have chatted over your story.
Well, I didn't know if you were aware of it or not,
No,
or would have thought of it. You know.
Yeah, I figured out that's why you probably did that, but I'm actually up to date on this case. I've heard that interview quite a few times and have studied it. Was that
Hello,
Bigfoot
Teresa.
Outlaw, Rick?
No, that was actually Brenton Sawin, who I don't usually listen to, but Dee Dee sent me the link and I listened to it and I'm like, that is just dead on. That is just a perfect.
Yeah.
I would like to interview Tina on the one hand, and on the other hand, not, because you can tell this had a huge effect on her. She was 9 years old, and she's got 2 grown kids, and it still affects her like that. I mean, I can imagine it was a terrifying experience, and not only that, knowing that these things were killing this woman, and who she cared about, obviously, but the fact that these 2 things were just a few feet from her house, and her mother must have been terrified, because there's a part before that where she talks about her mother when she was 15 years old, got caught in a camper, and a Bigfoot was attacking the camper, and her mother and father were over at the picnic area watching, and there was nothing that they could do but hope that the Bigfoot didn't kill their daughter, and they ended up knocking over the trailer, and then he left. But her mother went through that, and then years later this happened. So her mother was terrified, and she was terrified. I mean, I just can't imagine what that night must have been like,
Yeah, no doubt. I think I heard that segment on that trailer too. Yeah, I think I heard that before. But yeah, I couldn't remember if this was Bigfoot Outlaw or Brenton Sawin.
Yeah, it was Brenton Sawin.
It sounded like Brenton Sawn's voice, but I got a couple questions on this. She described it as looking like a Frankenstein,
As far as the big and bulk, that's what she was, because she explained that she was just 9 years old. She had no point of reference. And to her, the only thing that she could associate to it was the biggest monster she'd ever seen, which was Frankenstein.
Yeah, no doubt. But I do got to believe, though, within the species, that a lot of them probably are disfigured.
Well, I didn't get the impression from what she was saying that she actually saw them that well. It was more silhouette, is what my impression was. So it wasn't that she was saying he looked like Frankenstein. She just saying the mass of him was like all she could think was Frankenstein.
Yeah. My one question on this is, she said the next day the police were there.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Who do you think called the police?
I don't know. She didn't say. I mean, I would assume her mom, Oh, her mom didn't have a phone. That's right. I don't know. Actually, that was a good question.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, I know. She actually did answer that, because the old woman who was attacked had a phone. So she actually said, and I was trying to find that. That's why I was skipping through the interview, because I know there was a little bit more she said, but I couldn't find it. So I just said the hell with it. Where she said that the woman called the police, and it took them 2 hours to respond.
Oh, so the police must have showed up that night shortly after she was taken. But
yeah,
It sounds to me like that was a mature male, a mature male with a younger male,
Yeah.
and maybe that mature male was getting that younger male a female. Does that make any sense? Not necessarily dinner, but
No,
getting that.
no, because she was in her 70s. She would not have the right smell for, him to pick out as a mate for his son. You know what I'm saying? he would have gone after her. Her mom, her, and her. I think there was three of them, three sisters. So she was 9 and she was the youngest. So her two older sisters, what she said earlier in the interview is that the old woman said when they're having their time, do not let that, flush it or get rid of it. Don't put it in the trash outside. And she didn't understand why she was telling her that, because she was going to bring in the Bigfoot. And that's what she said, was that her mom said, well, my daughter already did that, and that's out in the trash. She said, get it, get rid of it. And she thought that might have been, or I might have thought that. I don't know if she actually said this, but that was what brought the Bigfoot in after blood, But so her two sisters who were with her were of age. If that was the key, what it was after, it would have been them that were being victimized.
Yeah, I thought about that as well. Makes me wonder why the Squatch never went over to their place.
Hold on, let me unmute you guys. Teresa, you're not muted on my end, so you have to set your push to talk. And Matt, I just unmuted you, so you're good to go.
Well, thank you, Rick. Good morning.
Morning.
I think the fact that it took the police 2 hours to get there, that I got a feeling she calls them a lot.
Well, that could be, but she has valid reasons to call them, evidently. But she said she was appalled that it took them that long to respond.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah, hey Matt, that's a good. You brought up a good point. That is a good aspect to the story. Probably one of the reasons why it took them so long to get there. But I think her description of the Squatches looking up and above and in and down that upper stained glass window, I think that's spot on.
Yeah, and she said that stained glass window was above a 6.5 foot door, so you're talking 8 feet up. So the biggest one, she said, was at the top of the stained glass, so he was 8 feet or better.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Hey, and that brings up a good subject, Rick. When I'm out in the field, I've actually trained, and I still catch myself looking low, but I've actually gotten really good and have trained myself when I'm out in the field to look higher in elevation as I'm looking in the bush. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, instead of, necessarily I'm 6 foot, looking at my level, I've actually trained myself to look up slightly, look at a higher elevation as I'm out doing, just when I'm out and about doing whatever. But, hey, Rick, where did this case happen?
I don't know. I don't know if she even said, because she went on about something. Oh, actually, she did. She did at the very beginning, was at the very beginning. So, but I don't remember where.
She mentioned this as a girl, Chinatown in San Francisco. So it makes me wonder if this incident happened.
I think she said Oregon. I think she said that they went to it was her grandfather's place in, I believe it was Oregon or somewhere up in there, and they were down in California.
That makes sense. I got the impression that maybe it was California somewhere, but that makes sense.
No, it definitely was not. It was not. It was another state. I remember that. I just can't remember which one. Her grandfather was in California. When she was talking about that, she was talking about that was where her grandfather went, and that they lived there, and that's when she was talking about San Francisco and the smell and everything. But her grandfather had this house that he only used like when he wanted to go hunting and stuff, and that's where they were staying when this happened, and it was in Oregon or something like that.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. Let me make sure I don't have you muted.
On mine shows that Amy and Teresa are muted.
Yeah, Teresa's on her end. No, Amy's is too. So the two of you have your settings not right or something. Wait a minute. Do I have your... Yep. And... Yep, both of you have the right roles, so you need to mess with your audio settings.
Teresa, go into voice settings and hit your push to talk.
Rick, what is the title of Brenda Harris's show?
I don't think she has a show.
Well, what she does, I mean...
Oh, Shadow Seekers, I think is what it's called. Her investigation group. I think it's Shadow Seekers. Let me look.
Yeah, it was her program where she talks about that couple that was killed in that mobile home. Was that on Shadow Seekers, Brenda Harris?
New Mexico Shadow Seekers is what her thing is called. I'm looking to see if that's there, because I'll play that too if I find it.
Am I on?
Yeah, who was that?
Yeah.
Amy?
This is Amy.
You sound quite annoyed. Am I on?
Oh my God, I think I'm set and then I totally screw up something. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
This damn technology.
Hey, Amy, did you listen to the program tonight? Did you hear what he played?
Amy, we don't hear you, but you're not muted. You're probably not. Oh, wait a minute. I saw her light up, but I didn't.
Yeah,
hear
I saw her
anything.
light up too, but I didn't hear anything.
I see Dee Dee on the old chat on the screen there. Hi, Dee Dee.
Hey, Dee Dee.
Amy's lit up, but I'm not hearing anything. That's weird.
You guys were talking. Hi, Dee Dee.
There she is.
Yeah, Amy, did you listen to the program? Did you listen to the segment that Rick played?
No, I missed it. Give me a brief on it, could you?
Go ahead, guys.
All right, yeah.
I'm looking for this other video.
He played a segment that was an interview that Brenton Sawn did a number of years ago with a gal that she was telling about a story when she was a young girl. Apparently her neighbor lady was killed, taken by two Bigfoot, and her and her mother witnessed the whole thing, and it was very traumatic. But basically, that's what it was. Are you familiar with that case? It was on Brenton Sawn.
No, I remember hearing of a case somewhere of a lady and her little daughter were in their home, and the old lady next door
That's
two
the
of them
one.
came in. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the one. And it was actually 3 daughters, but yeah, that's the one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and she was just describing the whole thing, and we were talking about how it took the police hours to respond, and then I guess the next day all hell broke loose, and law enforcement was there investigating the crime scene, and I guess the front door was ripped off the place, and they took that woman. I guess those squatches actually took her, and she was never seen again. In Rick, to this, and it's a cold case, correct?
Yeah, and they killed her inside the house because she said there was blood everywhere inside the house. Which I found interesting, that they didn't grab her and leave and then take her out in the woods, kill her and eat her. They killed her in the house, so it almost seemed like it was retaliation.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe they raped her in the house. I mean, see, that was my impression, Rick. I know you don't quite agree with that, but I think those two male squatches were there. You think maybe they might have raped and killed her in the house?
I think she was too old to rape, but at the same time, they rape horses, so it's any port in a storm, But I'm saying,
I thought I was safe by now.
I was thinking though, with 2 at least of girls who are at adolescence who have just became women. I mean, their pheromones or whatever will be really strong, and if that's what they were after, they would have been drawn to that house. Not saying necessarily they wouldn't rape an old woman like that. I'm saying with two other young females that close by, I don't think they would have bothered with her. They would have went straight to them.
You know what, Rick? And that's what I had mentioned earlier. Why were they at her house and not theirs? But maybe they just got the wrong house. You think that's possible?
I don't know, because the girl said that, and I don't know if it was in the interview part I played, but she said that when her mother originally told her to shut up and was looking out the crack in the blinds, she said, you know, being a young girl, she was curious. She looked out too, and that's when she saw them, and that one of them, the big one, turned and looked straight at them, and then went back to what he was doing. So I don't know. Maybe,
I didn't catch that part of it.
Yeah. I'm not finding anything about this killing you're talking about on Brenda's profile or her YouTube.
I'll try to find that, and I'll try to send it to you, and I'll try to get it to you. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was Brenda Harris. I could be wrong, but yeah, it was of the elderly couple that was.
Now, Dee Dee's got a good question. Was somebody secretly feeding them? You know, that could have been too.
Dee Dee, why aren't you in the town hall? You can come in here and talk and ask your questions. What did she ask now?
She wanted to say, was somebody
feeding them?
maybe secretly feeding them.
Yeah, Dee Dee, you're the one who sent me the link to that, aren't you? Because that was actually Brenton Sawin's what he thought might have been the case, is that she had fed them or something, because the woman was throwing, I don't know if it was, now my granny used to do this. She would just take like the leftovers and just chuck them out in the yard for the chickens and the hogs and everything to eat. And
yeah, my grandma did the same thing, throwing the scraps out, you know.
Yeah, and I guess that's what this woman did too. No, it was something about they got into her garden and she got angry about it, and she threw a bunch of rotten something or other over the fence. It really didn't make a lot of sense to me what they were saying, what Brenton Solomon was trying to get at, because it was vegetables. Bigfoot wouldn't care. But, you know, if you were feeding them meat every day and then you stopped, that would get their attention. But according to the girl who told the story, that, to her knowledge, that was not happening.
Oh, to her knowledge, to the best of her knowledge.
Oh, that's right, Dee Dee. I forgot you got laryngitis or something.
Yeah,
well,
so the best.
You know, Rick, a lot of people back in the day, they used to throw their scraps in a heap for a compost pile. Everything went in it, too. Everything.
Yeah. People still do that. Preppers and survivalists.
Oh, yeah, people still do that. Right. But to the best of her knowledge, she says the old gal there was not feeding them.
Okay. Say that again.
Yeah. To the best of her knowledge, she had said that, because I missed that part of the interview. To the best of her knowledge, nobody in the area was feeding them.
Right. Or she wasn't aware of anyone feeding them. It's not that she didn't think anyone was feeding them. She said, as far as she knew, nobody was feeding them. And I only got the impression that it was their house and the woman's house. Nobody else was there.
Yeah, that's really something.
How do you say that name here in the town hall? Is that Phoebe Suite?
What now? Phoebe.
Is that Phoebe?
Yeah.
Phoebe Suite?
Yeah, Phoebe Suite.
Hold on, Phoebe, and I'll make sure I don't have you muted. I'm just doing a search real quick.
It
Where did
shows
she
those
go?
two are still muted.
Oh, there she is. Yeah, everybody else is good. Nope. It's all on your side, Phoebe. You need to go into your voice settings, and you have to set up. It looks like, for some reason, you have your headphones muted. You just have to go in there and make sure that you have them turned on and set to push to talk. I don't see Teresa commenting or anything, so she might be muted because that's what she wants. I don't know.
It shows her mic is muted.
Yeah, but she's not muted on my side, so maybe Amy, you should tell her how you figured that out because you went through the same problem. You weren't muted on my side, and you finally figured it out. Up there you go, Phoebe. You got your speakers on. Now they're back off.
I don't know how I figured it out. I just lucked out because I was pushing every button.
I think we all went through that process of the button pushing.
Yeah, Amy, I did the same thing. I just played around with it, and it just came on.
You know, it's really, y'all are having problems with the cell phone version. I've used the computer version, and you install it, you turn it in, works. And I never had to set up anything. Except that, because I have so many audio channels, I had to set that up. But y'all wouldn't have that problem.
Well, I got it set up on a couple of devices, but I just turned it loose as well, Rick. Once I got in there, I turned it loose and it came right to me. So I don't.
Yeah, you had the least amount of problem, I think.
Well, she got her headphones turned on.
All right, Phoebe, now you just have to fix your microphone, put it on push to talk. I think that's what your problem is.
Yep, go into voice settings.
It's if you're on a phone, which I'm guessing, it's the 3 little dots up in the corner. That's your menu. Voice settings, push to talk.
Okay, so Rick, to get back on subject of tonight's topic, how many cases are you personally aware of where there have been actually human fatalities, killings by a Squatch? Are there many that you're aware of?
Probably more than anybody else in the national press. I have been teased for that a lot. And I heard something.
All right, repeat that. I was doing something.
No, I just was asking, to get back on subject here. How many cases are out there that you're aware of a Squatch is actually murdering, eating, and killing human beings? Are there a lot of cases that you're actually aware of?
Yeah. There's was it Brown Springs? Brown Springs case. The chick was murdered. Oh, you mean specifically and eaten?
Well, I mean, you have mentioned that a lot. Like, I've heard you say that they come and got dinner. But I mean, I'm aware of a few cases, but are there actually many cases out there of suspected? We'll
there are many cases of them of taking people and they never are seen again. So I'm assuming there's only 2 options. They're either eating them or they're using them as, they've mated with them in some way. If that's, we have no evidence. Well, actually, I did hear a story about a Sasquatch raping a girl, but other than the one that was dead on the hood. But, if they take them and they never come back, I'm assuming they were killed. And if they were killed, they were eaten. I mean, they didn't kill them in like a Predator, rip out their skull and put it on the mantle as a trophy. I don't think that they're doing that, They're eating them, I think some
and
of
also, you and I have discussed this aspect of it, and a lot of times we think that maybe they might abduct humanity as more of like a curiosity, like a pet type thing, right? I've heard you mention that.
Well, Phoebe, you don't have a microphone? Are you not on a phone?
Most devices have a built-in microphone.
Yeah, nowadays, like if you're on a laptop, it has a webcam, up on the top of where you pick up the screen. There's a little hole. That's a microphone. Unless you're using an old desktop-style computer like I do, you probably have a microphone. It's just you need to go into your settings and turn it on. Anyway, I missed your question there.
No, I just was saying that you and I have discussed in the past of the maybe occasionally they take humans as more of like a pet type curiosity type behavior.
Yeah, I actually think that is a possibility. And I think that's like, Potentially. I think when little kids disappear and then they find them miles and miles away, dead of like exposure, with abrasions on them, as if something would carry them through the trees and they got scratched up. I think that it's potentially, they took them home for a pet, you know.
Yeah, I think so too. And also,
And then
they
they
usually
died.
don't have shoes on.
And then they died. And I think the Bigfoot strips their clothes off because they think it's odd that they have clothes on, you know.
Yeah, that is an aspect of a lot of cases that I've studied, that victims are without their shoes. That's really something.
Well,
BD's in the house, Brown Dwarf.
Oh,
He's in
Phoebe,
the
you
chat.
do have a
Brown Dwarf's
desktop,
on.
so okay, yeah.
Where's Brown Dwarf, Matt? Is he on Discord?
No, he's in the chat room.
Brown Dwarf, man, we want to hear from you, brother. We want to hear some of your stuff.
All right, I found this killings in New Mexico thing. Give me a second.
Yeah, that's it.
Give me a second to cue it up.
Where'd you find that at, Rick? Because that's the case I was talking about.
Well, I'm gonna play it as soon as I get it queued up.
And a lot of people want to know how safe they are, and are their families in danger if they move into a Bigfoot area, or should they be carrying weapons with them?
And I just feel a little deeper that what I'm about to share, you all need to hear, whether you believe it or not. That's up to you, and everybody is entitled to their own opinions. But all of us that investigate out there, that do the research out there, and the people that live in the woods or along the rivers, not just here in New Mexico, but in every other state out there, please just be really careful out there.
What the heck? I lost everybody. Everybody there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you, Rick. Are you? Did you cue something up?
Bigfoot is doing this, and it's like being real aggressive, and it's mean. What do I do?
And I think she's getting straight into it here at this point, so I'll go ahead and play it. And if she's still rambling about something else, I'll skip
Rick.
forward. What?
Oh yeah, I thought you were queuing something up. I thought maybe you.
I am. I'm telling you about it right now. I'm telling you and everybody on YouTube that I've queued it up to the point where I think she's about to start talking about this murder stuff. If not, I'll skip forward. But I haven't heard this episode. I don't know exactly where it is. We're kind of all experiencing it at the same time here. So let me start it.
It can get scary at times, and what do you do? There's no expert out there. We are all learning, about what they can do, and it's just a matter of time when they're just going to turn on us people. It could be any time. It could be out there while we're out in the field, and we're doing the knocks or the calls and collecting stuff, and then boom, it turns on you, and then what? All I'm saying is, all of you out there, please just be aware of your surroundings. Be very careful. Never go alone. I know there's a lot out there that are going to disagree, but some of these things that they do need to be brought up, and I just don't want anybody else to get hurt. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell the first one. There's an incident that happened out here, and I know many of you are going to ask and question, how do you know it? You could be making all of this up. No, I am not a hoaxer, and I would never do this to all of you people out there. I would never make up anything like this. These are coming from the families themselves. They have shared with me, so I'm going to share with you. So, but back in, I believe it was 2011, I had gotten a call from a relative family of the victim. Well, these two gentlemen, had just gotten off work, and they, both got a can of 6-packs, and it was in the summertime. And they, got off work and were walking home, and they're like, well, let's go sit at the river and just have a couple cans of beer and just enjoy the night there, and it's something that apparently they've, done before.
I think this one is actually in the episode where I
chatting,
interviewed her.
talking among themselves, with each other, and all of a sudden the Bigfoot comes right up to them and starts attacking them. From what I understood, the men didn't do anything to it. They were just sitting there having a nice conversation. Late in the evening, it was dark when this happened, and this was down at the river. And the gentleman got up, and this thing started attacking him. And they tried to fight him off, but it was too strong. So one of his buddies that was trying to help his friend there, this thing would pick him up and throw him in the river, and he was really basically throwing his friend around like a rag doll. Well, and the guy's screaming and all, help, help. And his buddy was just, trying, to help him, and this thing would keep pushing him away. And as to why was he, really going just to, after that one individual, I don't know, we don't know, and he doesn't know. Well, when he got thrown into the river and went back to try to help his buddy's yelling and screaming for help, tried to fight off this thing, Bigfoot, and the gentleman, he was too strong. So he ran back up on top of the hill to neighbors and, knocking on the doors and, yelling for help and stuff. And finally someone opened the door and call the cops, call the cops. That Bigfoot, he attacked us. We were down at the room just sitting there, and they, tried to, I guess, calm him down, and finally they called the cops, and they all went down in there, and the guy told them what had happened and what they were doing down there. And by the time they got down there, down to the river where they were sitting, they were both gone. And so they ended up calling I believe the rescue, the one with the boat and stuff. The search team, they went out there, and they couldn't find him. And, of course, the cops asking, his friend what had happened, and, they're blaming it on the beer, not, how that goes, So they went down about a mile, from what I heard was about a mile and a half down the river. They did find his friend in the river, and his neck was broken. The Bigfoot was nowhere to be found. It was gone. But from what I understood from the family, I did talk to one of the family members. So they said they did. I believe they found a footprint, and it was a pretty big footprint. Now, after that was, all said and done, of course, they told the family not to say anything, to keep it quiet, and it never happened. And I had been contacted by one of the relatives, and they informed me of what had happened. And about a couple of days, about a week later after the incident had happened, I had someone come to my house to, inform me, like, hey, be careful. And I already knew. I looked at the person. So this thing did kill that individual, right? And the person said yes.
Yeah, I'm going to just skip forward and see if she tells anything else about other murders. So y'all, go ahead. I'm going to look for more. I don't want to just play the whole thing. I just want to hear her. But I interviewed her, and she told that story in my interview as well.
Yeah, I've actually heard this case and studied this case. And so the Squatch only killed the one guy, right? Didn't kill the other guy, correct?
Yeah, it was for some odd reason. It just didn't like that one dude, and it went after him and just pummeled his ass. You know? And
Yeah, I gotta agree with Witty One. Witty One says exactly why we need open season on these demons. Kill them all.
yeah, there you go. That's the attitude I was talking about, where some people just want to wipe them out.
Well, I believe we do need one body, just one to study. That's
Well, I think we've already had many bodies. I think they've been studied. They're, what we were the subject we were talking about the other night. I think that there is a body, just not on the civilian side of things. But I think they've had many bodies to study.
The government, probably.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I think we should destroy the bad ones. Destroy the ones that kill a human.
Yeah, and they do that, Matt. There
think
are some
that's
stories out there.
I think that's what the government is doing. They're policing the problem while keeping it quiet at the same time. That's what I believe is going on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick, 100%. Because how many cases have we studied that we know of? Special units go in to specifically hunt down rogue squatches where maybe a child's been taken or whatnot.
And consider this. If I don't think it's as extreme as people let on, but assuming the government is going in there and actually Brenda Harris just said it, they said be quiet or whatever. If the government is saying, don't say nothing to nobody, this never happened, okay? Now think of that. In that we have heard multiple stories about special forces coming in and, dispatching the rogue or whatever, and that they're told not to say anything. What do you suppose the percentage is of people who are saying something to people who aren't? And then just imagine how much that would expand the encounters database if all of those people who are keeping quiet didn't. You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, and that touches on the subject what we discussed about the secrecy cap. And so you are saying you do believe that in some instances there are certain levels of government that'll come in and just tell you to totally keep it quiet. And
I don't think that they're threatening people. I think that it's possible they're saying, we'd like to keep this under wraps. You're going to have your jerks who come in and say, this never happened, and they're going to leave. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have that. And then you're going to have the other ones who are say, we would really like to keep this under wraps. We would appreciate your cooperation, and that's the way they leave it. It's going to have the whole gambit of things, but it's going to be the individual who's talking to the people who's going to be the impression that's left, if you know what I mean. But I don't believe the government itself because if they were, they would be out there, send special forces out there to take out the rogue, and then they would turn around and kill everyone who saw him. If that were the case. But the government don't do that. So they're not going to make idle threats. They'll ask for cooperation, and they'll either get it or they won't. That's my opinion.
So what do you think happens when they don't get the cooperation?
Nothing. How many people have you heard go on Sasquatch Chronicles and talk about the two guys that threatened them, and then they're on again, and then again, nothing ever happens to them? Because nothing was ever going to happen to them. They might have been asked for their cooperation, and they opted not to, and maybe made a story out of it by saying they were threatened, and maybe they didn't. Maybe the guy really did. I mean, I have a whole episode about what I think about this. So I don't believe it is the way it's represented. I do believe that the government is keeping it a secret at their level. But they're not threatening people. I think that these two dudes, the MIB that people ever talk about, what is it, the scruffy guy and the, I don't know, is it a neat guy or one's in a suit and one's not, I don't know. I forget exactly what it is, but it's supposed to be the same guys. First of all, if it's the same two guys, they're really overworked, aren't they? You know, the government don't do that.
Know, I thought about that same thing too. It always seems to be those two. I know exactly who you're talking about.
It actually don't seem to be. That's what they say. That if you listen to the Sasquatch Chronicles, they say these are the two guys.
I gotta agree with you. If it's the same two guys, boy, those guys do some traveling and get around.
Yeah, well, and what I'm going to say is if it truly is the same two guys, then my suspicion is way up here, because if it's the same two guys, they're definitely somebody who's working for somebody else, and they're using any government credentials they may have to add credibility to what they're doing for this other third-party interest. And that, to me, is the most likely scenario with those two guys.
Yeah, that's a good... I never really thought about that aspect of things, but that very well may be true. That's you just touched on a good subject there involving those two. That's pretty good, Rick.
They're just two guys who work for some department, you know, with legal government department, and they're getting kickbacks. They're getting paid under the table. They're taking bribes, however you want to put it. That's why they're doing it. It has nothing to do with the government, because the government could make sure that this doesn't come out if they really wanted to, and they don't. They let me talk about it. They let everybody else talk about it. You know, you hear some people say, "Oh, they hacked my computer" and stuff like that, and I've heard